Head to Whole Foods Market to jumpstart your January during our New Year boosting event with savings on feel-good favorites store-wide. Save on organic picks, wellness staples, and more all month long.
This episode is brought to you by Unstoppable. Discover the inspiring true story about Anthony Robles, who defied every expectation to become a national wrestling champion in Unstoppable, a new original movie from Amazon MGM Studios and director William Goldenberg, evoking the excitement and camaraderie of classic sports dramas and thrilling wrestling matches. Unstoppable features an all-star ensemble cast, including Jarrell Jerome, Jennifer Lopez, Don Cheadle, Michael Pena, and Bobby Cannavale. Watch Unstoppable now, exclusively on Amazon Prime Video.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Welcome to another Find the Edge production for the Premier League Cricket Club. Connecting players and coaches, clubs and leagues, volunteers and supporters alike, you're in the right place for the best of the 33 ECB Premier Leagues and the 20 NCCA counties, bringing you the stories, the stats and the standout performances that make this game great. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to both our Premier League and NCCA shows so you don't miss any episodes. Now, shall we get stuck in? So welcome everybody to the Premier League Cricket Show, and today we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to be focusing on the one word that we talk about a hell of a lot throughout the entire cricket season, but we never get to talk to them directly about it very much, and that is coaching. And joining us is, I think it's the best way to describe it, Hugh, is what we describe as the coach of coaches. You know, the amount of bloody people who watch this guy online and the amount of stuff that he's been doing recently, and we'll get to the numbers, I'm sure, at some point. Some gazillion people watched him throwing balls at Steve Smith a few weeks ago. So join us today from Perth, Australia, cricket mentoring's very own Tom Scollay. How are we doing, Scolls?
I'm very well, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on again. I enjoyed our chat earlier this year when I was over in the UK, but it's nice to be coming to you and joining you guys and the listeners again.
It's a little bit colder than it was when we met at Northwich, mate.
It is. Yeah. You guys look like you're inside, but you've got your jackets on. I'm sitting here in my t-shirt as we approach our warm Christmas.
Yeah, there's something lovely about an Australian Christmas. It always used to get a bit homesick around the 24th, and then halfway through the 25th, you're down the beach and everything's forgotten. So yeah, I'm very, very jealous.
Yeah, well, my wife is English, and she said to me, she's been in Perth for 12 years now, and she said to me a few days ago, it still doesn't feel like Christmas. She's used to she lived in England, but then she also lived in the US, so she's used to a cold sort of white Christmas, and so very different over here.
Yeah. No, it's better. It's better over there. Yeah.
I'm not going to get involved in this discussion whatsoever because I'm always in one place at Christmas. Full stop in the story. Definitely.
Yeah. Editing podcasts.
No, none of that. No, not this time. The latest I've flown back from overseas, though, was from South Africa about 15 years ago on the 23rd of December. And having left South Africa on the 23rd of December, I can sort of relate to that heat and that difference that Scholes is in that T-shirt right now.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. But it's cricket season over there, so that's more important than Christmas.
It is.
What happens, Tom, during Christmas cricket season? Does it all stop for 2 weeks, or does it all sort of carry on ticking over quietly?
No, everyone has a break over Christmas. The last game will be this Sunday. There's a T20 final here in Perth. Wow. My old club Perth are playing on the Sunday night at the Wacker, but the last round game is Saturday. And then there's a 2-week break until the next game on the 4th of January. So pretty much everyone has a good week off, gets to recharge and get away from cricket. And it's a really nice sort of time to have the break for a lot of people. And then you come back the following week, do your Tuesday, Thursday training, the odd top-up hit, and then you're back playing again the following week. So it's quite a nice break for a lot of people who have done a big pre-season, had a big sort of first half of the season, and then they can just get away, reset and refresh.
What does T20 finals night look like at the Wacker? I can imagine the bar sales do quite well. I mean, does everyone, from grade cricket sort of pile down there and have a few?
Yeah, look, I think there'll be quite a few spectators. I think everyone from the two clubs will go, and then there'll be the odd punter from other clubs. But to be honest, if your club's not in it, you're probably not that interested. You're probably like whatever.
Right.
You're off doing your own thing with your friends and having a good time. Like that is the break in the season, so you're almost checked out of cricket at that point.
Yeah.
But Sunday night should be a decentish crowd. Perth Cricket Club versus University. I've been working with James Bracey for a bit, and he's at University, so he's playing in the final. And my old club, Perth, I work with a lot of guys there, Joel Curtis and a few others. So should be a good two of the best teams. Should be a really good final.
Who's going to win it?
Oh, look, Perth have been the best team for the last few seasons, and I think they're going to be hard to beat, especially the form Joel's in. I'm not sure if Wells or Fanning will be available with the Big Bash going on, but
yeah,
Perth are bloody hard to beat at the moment.
Right,
Absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely. Hey, we'll get round to the result of that later on, I'm sure, at some point in the series that we're doing at the moment, Hugh. But want to talk to Tom about, I hate to use the word, but his journey and where he's got to this year. Got a mega following on Instagram, on YouTube, etc. now, Tom, with cricket mentoring. But it all starts a lot further back ago, doesn't it? You haven't started coaching 2 minutes ago. But where did your cricket career start from?
Well, I was actually 10 years old, living in Canberra, and I played soccer when I was younger with my twin brother, and a school friend from primary school was playing cricket, and I just stayed at his house on a Friday night a few times, went along and watched. I got to field, and then I started bringing white clothes and got involved, and then my parents worked out what was going on. And from my first competitive match, I hit a boundary with my first ball that I ever faced. I think I got a juicy full toss and slogged it, and I think I got addicted from that moment. And so all through my teenage years, cricket became my number one sport, and I was just so committed and dedicated, and it was all I wanted to do. I was good at school, but cricket was my passion and what I wanted to do in life. And as soon as I finished school, I moved here to Perth, and then I went and had seasons in Darwin. Then I went and had 6 seasons in the UK, 5 in the Middlesex League. I had a few seasons as a pro with Middlesex. And then I had 1 season with East Molesey in the Surrey Prem. And then I just, got right. And so the first year after finishing playing all year round and playing in the winter, 2014, I started doing some private one-on-one coaching. And from I'd done coaching before when I was the overseas player at Eastcote and at East Molesey and that. I'd done tennis coaching when I was younger, so I sort of understood coaching, but it wasn't until I did that first session with a young 13-year-old boy, and I think I was 25 or 6 at the time, my professional career had ended, and I really got a lot of joy in giving back. I'd had some really excellent coaching myself from Mark O'Neill and other coaches when I was at Middlesex, and I felt like I sort of knew what I was talking about. So 2014, however old I was then, 26, 27, I just started doing private coaching. And then, a couple of years later, I launched the business, and I sort of married up my enjoyment of social media and the understanding that, hey, if I create content, this can go all over the world. And this was 8 years ago, and not that many people were doing it. And so, we grew reasonably quickly on Instagram and YouTube. Things have sort of progressed from there over the years.
Can I rewind there, Hugh?
Yeah, I was about to say the same. Yeah,
got to rewind there. Is there a coaching tip number 1 there that whenever you've got a newbie come to your club, basically throw him down something that he's going to whack, and that first ball's going to stick with him, and he's going to know, hey, hang on a minute, this is all right.
Well, maybe, yeah. Like I honestly have a really vivid memory of me being 10 and I know where we were, and I just got this ball, and I obviously had pretty good hand-eye. I was playing a lot of sport at that age and played a bit of tennis, and I just smacked it, and I was like, whoa, how good's this? And I highly recommend that for anyone if you can set that up.
Yeah, I mean, we have quick cricket here in the UK. I'm not quite sure what the same standard of it, the plastic bats and the stumps, but basically it's a slogging contest, and you've got the parents around, and the kids love it. I mean, it's probably dreadful for the cricket, but the kids absolutely love it because the ball's flying everywhere if they can bowl it straight, which is often a question. And they're getting applause from the parents when the ball's gone over that boundary, and that's like scoring a goal in football. And not that many kids actually get to score goals in football, but plenty of these kids get to stick one over the rug.
Oh, yeah, it's such a nice feeling, and you want them feeling good, and that's what they want to come back for.
Yeah, just dialing back then into your journey. I mean, it isn't your typical Australian journey, I don't think. So you represented Northern Territory in sort of state carnivals and things like that. How long were you in the Northern Territory for? Because it's not a cricketing hotbed, shall we say?
No, well, look, it's not unique, and I could give you the whole picture, but I was born there in Alice Springs, in a town of 30,000 people, a small town in the middle of Australia. I lived there till I was 4, and then at 4, my dad got a job in Canberra, and we relocated to Canberra, other sort of on the East Coast. We had 6 years in Canberra, and at 10, we moved back to Alice Springs, and I lived there all my sort of teenage years until I was 18, and I did all my schooling there. I represented the Northern Territory, which was great because I went to 4 under-19 national carnivals. Now, most people are happy if they go to 1, but I went as a 17, an 18, a 19, and then with the NT, we were actually allowed to have overage players back then because we were so small and so weak. We could bring overage players, and they've since changed the rules that the NT only selects 6 players now, I think, and their other states top up the NT with their leftover players or the guys that just missed out. So back then you could send overage players. So I got to go to all these carnivals. I had amazing exposure, and I met and played against some of the guys who have gone on to be great, Australia's greatest ever cricketers: Steve Smith, Usman Khawaja, Nathan Lyon, Moses and Reeks, Jackson Bird were older, David Warner. I played against all these guys who are sort of my age group, or a little bit older, a little bit younger: Mitchell Stark, Josh Hazlewood. So many of these great players I played junior cricket against, and I had that opportunity because I was coming from the Northern Territory. But yeah, at 18, like as you said, there's no professional cricket there. So I knew that I had to get out of there as early as I could, as quick as I could. And fortunately, cricket is a sport where you can make it at 21 or 22 or 23 or whatever. And I left Alice Springs at 18 just after I'd finished my high school studies, and came and played cricket in Perth, and I applied my trade here, and I went to Darwin, back to the Northern Territory in the off season. And then I wasn't really getting anywhere in Perth. I was sort of plugging away in a bit of first grade, a bit of second grade, and not really dominating by any stretch of the imagination. And there were other young guys coming through the system. And someone said, "Why don't you go and play in England?" Because I'd said my dad was born in the UK, and I said, I can get a British passport. And I didn't have one. My dad didn't even have his at the time. But that sort of then kick-started my journey to go and play in London, play in England, and ultimately end up playing for Middlesex. But yeah, growing up, I always wanted to play for Australia. And yeah, it was just a dream to play. So I just followed it as wherever it would take me.
Was cricket, was cricket number one? Were those weekends, that was it? And what you did in the week, job-wise, were you just funding cricket? Was that the drive?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was 18 and finished school, I moved to Perth. I got a job at a hotel. I would work sort of 20-something hours a week, early mornings, so then I could train in the afternoons. I'd work 5 till midday or 5 till 11 or whatever, maybe go and have a quick nap, and then I'd have the rest of the day to go and hit balls and go for a run and go to the gym and do whatever. So my parents were supporting me a little bit, but I had to sort of support myself, and I just did whatever I could, live paycheck to paycheck, and lived fun. I just was living my dream of like chasing cricket, playing cricket all the time, and having fun and having freedom, like moving out of home and whatever. So it was absolutely all cricket. I put all my eggs in that basket. I deferred my uni, which I got into. And then, yeah, as I said, so 2000 and I finished school in November 2005. I moved to Perth, played that sort of Australian summer, 2005, 2006. And then I played in the Australian winter. I played 2006 and 7 in Darwin. Then I played 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12 in the UK. So I played all year round, and I took like a 2-week break in between seasons. There were a few pockets of time where I wasn't enjoying cricket, but for the most part, I absolutely loved playing. And then, yeah, it wasn't until 2014 that I had my first winter in Australia, and that's when I actually started doing a bit of coaching.
And you did do something in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, all those years that exceeds Mr. Steve Smith himself. You actually managed to play more than a season in England and not get scared by the drinking culture that was around 1 or 2 cricket clubs and not bottle it, basically.
That's right. Well, Smithy, yeah, he could have played over there, couldn't he? Because he's got a British passport as well, I think.
Yeah, he did play, but he didn't last very long. He didn't last very long at Grappenhall. He lasted one evening, and then I think he must have been only 17 though, or something like that. Poor thing. Yeah, they took him out for a few scoops, and and that was that. He didn't enjoy himself.
He then moved down south to Surrey, where I think he had, or Surrey or Kent, and he had friends or family, and he played a bit of Kent League then down there. But the harder
he's done all right, hasn't he?
He's done all right. I mean, but then again, he's done all right. But he got Scholes to throw some balls to him, so he must have been feeling a bit out of it the other week, definitely.
Flex your business with an American Express Business Gold Card. You'll earn 4 times membership rewards points on your top 2 eligible spending categories, like transit and electronics, each month, on up to $150K in combined purchases per year. Plus, you can now earn 3 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Terms and points cap apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold, built for business by American Express.
Hey, Atlanta. Say hello to Small Business Help from Apple. That's right. We're here to make starting and running your business simpler. From helping you choose the right devices to setting them up hassle-free, we can help you build your business in no time. Speak to a business expert and get the help you need at no cost whatsoever. At Apple, we're open for your small business. Go to apple.com/small business or visit an Apple store to learn more.
You worked hard at it, though, Tom, and I think for anyone who's listening, and it's great to say this, but we know that 90+% of our listeners are still players. We know from the demographics that we see that there's that 18 to 35 age group is huge for us. And you're right, cricket is a sport that you can make it. It doesn't have to be 18, it can be 21, 23, 24, it can be even later now with franchise cricket coming along all over the bloody world. Is that, do you think, the key to your success in what you did and just sticking at it, basically?
Yeah, and look, a guy I'm very close to, who I've already mentioned, Joel Curtis, is another example of that. He's 25 and he's sort of breaking into the Western Australian team at the moment in domestic cricket, scoring a Sheffield Shield 100 recently. But 100%, what underpins, I think, anyone who has success, ultimate success, and I don't think I had ultimate success. Yes, I was a pro for a few years, but I didn't go on and become one of the greatest, like a Smith or someone else. But you listen to what Smith says and people talking about Smith, it's this real love of the game. It's this real hunger and love of the craft that you do. And Kobe Bryant talks about it. All the greatest athletes. Max Verstappen has a car simulator in his house, and he finishes a Formula One race and goes home and drives. And I think, it's underpinned by love. And that's what took me from a kid in the middle of Australia with no coach, no mentor. It was just the love of the game that sort of, and a bit of naivety as well, going like, okay, I want to play for Australia. I had very supportive parents, although they weren't cricket people and they didn't couldn't be my mentors, which is what I lacked. And that's why I do what I do now. But they were so supportive, and I thought, okay, I can make it. And I came to Perth with big dreams, didn't quite reach those dreams here. So then I went to London, an even bigger city, but there's more opportunities in the UK with more teams, even though there's more people. And I just thought I can make it. And I did. So, but it was all underpinned, and I now still work in cricket. So it was underpinned by this love of what I do. And I see the same in all the best players I've worked with, and I see is they do more work. They put in more work than others. They study the game. They study their game. They hit more balls. They go to the gym. And they do it because they love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I always think about one of the great underachievers from my youth, from a football point of view, in Stan Collymore. He was an absolute legend for me at Nottingham Forest, who had all the talent in the world, and he burned incredibly brightly for about 2 or 3 seasons. But he admitted he didn't particularly enjoy it. Yeah. He wasn't able to sustain his levels because he didn't like training particularly much. He wasn't a massive fan of football. He just had this amazing gifts. But he wasn't able to make it click. And if he'd have had that mentality, I think he would have been a serious generational player. But he wasn't able to. I think
he's someone that made it to a professional level, a good level, and everyone sort of knows who he is. But there's probably like thousands, if not millions, of people in history who have had ability or got to a certain level, but they just don't have that love and that desire to keep working and keep getting better. Because once you get to a certain level, it's only little things that make the big difference. So, I think he's probably not alone in that.
Yeah. To taking you to I was just having a nose through your stats. Thankfully, cricket.com.au have made things a little bit easier the last couple of years to actually look at the Aussie stats. But looking at you had a really, really good year, 11-12 in grade cricket, and that was the year you broke through into Middlesex, or around that time. Did you do something different around that time? You know, looking at your grade stats, historically, you're averaging 30, which is damn good in first grade in Perth. And then you had a big jump up to sort of averaging 50, and that was the time you became pro. What changed in your life and training practices that gave you that lift?
Look, so the timeline was I got my contract with Middlesex in 2010. Right. I didn't play a whole lot of the Aussie season 2010-11 because I had to come back to London and do a training camp with Middlesex in November and December. I made some technical changes in that winter. I tried to tighten a few things up, which I think ended up being a bit detrimental. I lost a bit of my DNA like later on, but in the short term, it did help with certain things. But so then 2011, I went back to the UK. Again, I was fiddling with some technical things but the fact that I had a contract and I was a professional, I think made me sort of walk a bit taller, and it took all the sort of pressure or expectation off my results in Perth. I was no longer needing to do well in Perth.
Right.
And I could just play with sort of freedom. And so this is one of the reasons why I'm really passionate working with young players, and we will get into it at some point, I'm sure, about the mindset of performance, because I know now, as an older guy looking back, I know that at my best, I was really, really good. I was like that one season you mentioned, it was a complete outlier. As you said, I averaged about 30 in grade cricket across sort of 100. I played 200 first grade games and averaged about 30. But there was one season where I got 820 runs at an average of 82, and it was the most runs in the comp. And it was no coincidence that it was the year that I was contracted. I was contracted with Middlesex at the time. I wasn't worrying about impressing people and playing at the next level for Western Australia. I just played with a lot of freedom. And interestingly, I've had this conversation with a few people lately. I finished the English season in 2011. I went back to Alice Springs, where my mum was at the time. She was still in Alice. And I played one game in Alice Springs, which was a much lower standard than first grade in Perth, much, much lower. But I got 100, and I've been saying to a few people, like, your body and your mind don't realize what level it is. So even though the level was low, the fact that I had spent time in the middle and I had scored 100 meant I went into the first game I played of that season, and I missed the first two games, but I went into round 3 that season and I got a 40, but I batted really well. And then the next game, I think I got another 40 and batted really well. And then I got 100 and 100. But I don't know if I would have had that big season if I hadn't have got the 100 in Alice Springs.
Wow.
So when people say, oh, maybe I don't want to play a lower level, I say, no, mate, go and play and dominate. Go and spend time in the middle and do it. Get some good feeling about yourself. Like, well, hopefully you do well and whatever. But so there were a few things. There was this fact that, I just let go of any expectation I was putting on myself. And I just then played with freedom. And then I went into the season feeling really good, having scored 100, albeit at a lower level. So, and then it was sort of like a lot of people, once I got runs early, again, it was just freedom, more freedom to play and express. And honestly, I think that was my level. That was where I was capable of playing, but I didn't get there very often because most of my career I was batting with expectation. I was batting with a bit of baggage. I was batting with a clouded mindset. And I really wish I was able to find a way to get to that standard more often, because I think my best was really, really good.
I think that's really interesting when you talk about getting that time in the middle. And I know that one of your close friends, and you've been doing some coaching with him, I'm sure, this winter, again, James Bracey, he did exactly that last year. He stepped back into the Premier League, played for Bristol, couple of tons. Weeks after, he's getting tons for Gloucestershire. And you could just see that time in the middle, it's cricket's one of those strange sports, isn't it? That the more time you put in, the more effort you put into that time in the middle, facing bowlers of all different types, shapes and sizes, it does work.
Absolutely. And Brace, even going back before that, like doing well in grade cricket here in Perth. He had a really good season in Perth, playing first grade, and any English player will tell you first grade cricket anywhere in Australia is good standard. You play on tricky wickets sometimes, and it's tough cricket. So that set him up. But then, yeah, absolutely, to sort of say, right, I want to go and bat, I want to play, and put his ego aside, even though he's played Test cricket. That, again, yeah, you go down a level or two, but if you do well, there's huge benefits because, like I said before, the brain doesn't realize it was a lower level. It just thinks, okay, I've been in the middle, I'm comfortable, I know what I'm doing, and it builds this belief and this good feeling. People call it confidence, but it builds this really good feeling within yourself that then when you step into a higher level, the next game or whatever, as you mentioned, Bray's playing county cricket, yeah, you feel really good about yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's something obviously that the Bazball era has tapped into. That whole sort of psyche is about developing the mental side of the game. That they are saying these guys are all brilliant cricketers, regardless, and we back you. And by backing them and taking as much pressure off, it's letting them perform. Was that something that when you've been around the pro game, was that there in the pro game when you were there, or is this something maybe you wish was maybe a little bit more embellished?
No, look, I do wish that I was playing in an era of Bazball, in terms of go out and take the game on, because I think, especially when I was young, I sort of went after it. So when I was a teenager, I was little and I didn't have a lot of shots, but I had a solid technique. And then I got to about 18 and I suddenly got and I'm still not massive, but I got a bit bigger, a bit stronger, and I could hit the ball off the square. And then I became quite an attacking player. Like, one of the reasons I got a contract with Middlesex, or they even at the first looked at me, is we played a 26 over game. It was my first trial game with Middlesex. It was meant to be a 50 over a side game at a county ground at Bristol. And I was opening the batting, and it was the end of the season, 2009. I'd had 2 good Premier League seasons for Eastcote in the Middlesex Premier League. And I walked out to bat in this rain-reduced game. It nearly got called off. Our captain at the time was Chris Silverwood, who obviously went on to coach England. And I walked out to bat with a guy called Steve Selwood, who played a bit for Derbyshire, played a lot in the Middlesex League. And I said, let's just go after it. First over, I think I hit David Payne for 24. I think I hit 3 sixes in the first over, and I ended up with 66 off 33 that day. And there were other times in my career where I just would walk out with freedom and smack it. But then as I got a bit older, I was trying to be sensible and trying to do the right thing and trying to be seen to be batting smart and doing. And I sort of curbed my instincts of taking the game on. So from a Bazball take the game on positive sense, I really do wish I was playing now and growing up as an 18-year-old now, because it's okay to run down and hit the third ball over the top in a 5-day game. But to answer your specific question, I was backed enormously by Richard Johnson, who was the Middlesex second team coach, and he made me feel 10 feet tall. He was wonderful. He was one of my biggest fans and supporters. He loved that I could play the bat off the back foot. I think the second ball I faced in a trial match for Middlesex the following year, David Willey bumped me and I pulled him 1 bounce 4. And ever since then, Jono was like, oh, I love this bloke. And I pulled Stuart Meeker for a 6 one day at Radlett. And so Jono was a big fan. But then when I went up into the first team, it was completely opposite. I just felt like I wasn't backed, felt like I was having to prove myself, and the coach didn't even really know who I was. And so, yeah, I think that whole feeling in the change room is so, so important. There's no coincidence that first season at Middlesex, in the 2s, I averaged 60 and won the second 11 player of the year and did really well. But I never did well in first team. I always felt on the periphery and on the outer, and I was playing for my spot every game. And it's a really hard place to be.
And do you think that's effectively why, I hate to use the phrase for it, it didn't happen for you at Middlesex there, that there was almost a difference between how the first team were and the second team were, and as a consequence, what you were doing great in that second team didn't then flow through into the first 11 and it went against you?
Well, look, I've got to take complete ownership. There's no one sort of accountable except me. I didn't do well enough, and I wasn't smart enough. I got opportunities. It was Pro 40 cricket back then. We were playing in the Pro 40 comp, and I was batting 5, 6, 7, and I'd often come in with 8, 10, 12 overs to go, 4 overs to go, and I'd throw my wicket away. I'd get sort of 12. I remember playing against Worcester one day, and I hit two boundaries, then I'd walk across my stumps and get out. And I got 8 off 5, and I was like, oh well, I've hit two boundaries. I'm okay with that. That someone else will finish off the innings. So you look at my numbers, and I averaged like 12 in list day cricket in 10 games or whatever it is. And I just wasn't smart enough. I didn't have a mentor to say, Skulls, go and be selfish, get a not out. Like if that's me mentoring a young player now, I'm like, mate, you're playing for your career here. Get a 24 not out, run a ball. Don't throw your wicket away. Come on, like that's better for the team anyway, because then the next batter doesn't have to come in. And so like there's a number of factors. One, I never felt backed in the first team. Two, I was batting out of like what I'd batted my whole career, and that's like any young player. You've got to bat down the order and earn your right to get up the order. So I was batting at 5, 6, 7 and having to come in and try and whack it. But ultimately, I wasn't good enough. Ultimately, I got a bit overawed by it all. I got a bit sort of my mind and my emotions maybe got the better of me at times. And again, that's why I'm really passionate now to help others not sort of go through those same things that I went through.
Are you walking out to bat there thinking this is my job on the line sort of every time you're playing, or was it the opposite? Were you not thinking about that and therefore not clear-headed?
I wasn't having those thoughts. This is my job on the line, but I was thinking like, oh, I've got to do well to stay in the team. Like I don't think I ever thought as big as like this is my career, and I was quite optimistic, and I was always sort of going back and doing okay in the twos and sort of thinking, yep, look, and I'm a positive person, and I knew that there was a few people that supported me and whatever, but there were times where I was like, if I don't do well, I'm getting dropped and might not get another chance. Like, yeah, definitely. But I did feel almost every time I batted like I've got to do well to stay in the team. It was, lots of thoughts like that, I guess.
It's just looking at, I don't know, at some of the twos games you played, and it's a grumble for us. The standard of second team cricket seems to be all over the place in the UK. Looking at, I was having an OZ3 in the twos team you played. Adam Rossington's in there, Paul Sterling's in there, Andy Balbirnie's in there. I think you played against Marcus Stoinis, who I suppose you probably faced in first grade in Perth. That's a top draw second team cricket. And if you flip it round, I think possibly because there have been some rule changes around payment of players and so forth, the second teams we see now are nothing like as strong as that. So did you feel that second team was able to prepare you well enough to be, despite obviously not quite kicking on with professional, but did you feel that was a good, was that second team a step up from maybe first grade Premier League cricket?
Yeah, I think at times it was. Premier League cricket in Australia, in England it was. I think it was a similar standard to first grade cricket here in Perth. So like that game where Stoinis played, we played at Canterbury, and I think Sam Robson got 100 in the 3-day game. He was coming back from the first team, and Stoinis got a big 100 in the 1-day game. I think he smacked Tom Smith everywhere, who's had a great career at Gloucestershire. And look, there were some really good players and guys you mentioned who have gone on to do great things. We were all pretty young at the time and sort of trying to make a career. But the standard was good. Yeah, it was really good. We played on some really good wickets. I played a second team game against Hampshire, who had Simon Jones and Abdul Razak, and like two guys who had played a lot of international cricket. Look, it was an amazingly fun time, and we were all young, trying to just make a career and having a good time. It was so much fun.
That's the main thing, isn't it?
But at the same time, you're a hero to us because of what I look on, play cricket and see first 11, Premier League, Division 1 as it's called, to average 48 across 114 innings at that level, that's pretty decent, Hugh, isn't it?
Are we talking play cricket stats here?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think my favourite there is 2019. You're playing with Jalpesh Vijay, Crouch End.
Legend.
Yeah, legend of Premier League and European cricket. Really Sandhu's favourite. And you win. I think you were in the second team. You win the second division championship there to get promoted, and you had a big season there. So what's that like? What was 2019 looking like at Crouch End?
29 was awesome. So I had the 6 seasons in England, 5 at Eastcote, and then 2019, my wife and I came back with our now sort of 6-year-old daughter, who was a baby at the time, and I'd gone to England, I think the year before, and Pratik Patel, who's a great man at Crouch End, he got me to come and do some coaching at Crouch End for a day. I think that was in 2018. And then, they sort of started bugging me about playing and come play for us. And I started to think about it, like, okay, maybe I could. And so, yeah, look, they were a fantastic group of guys, and they had come from Division 5. They'd won Liga, like division after division after division. It's an amazing story how they then went on to win the Premier League in 2020, 2020, I think it was. Whatever, 2019, 2020, when there was the COVID.
2021 probably,
2021 maybe. 2020 was the COVID year. And they've just become one of the strongest clubs in the Middlesex League. And it's driven by a handful of guys who are incredibly passionate. They set really sort of good standards around the club. They had a great work ethic, and they were really keen to learn and develop. And look, it was an amazing time. I wasn't training a whole lot. I was running around the country with the family and coaching and doing other things. So I was playing on a Saturday, but again, I was playing with freedom and enjoying it. And I played some good cricket that year. I don't know what my numbers were, but it was pretty good. We were successful as a team, and had lots of fun.
Doesn't know what his numbers were, just average 60, that's fine.
Yeah, just average 60, his highest average in First Division or Premier League cricket in his play cricket career. But apart from that, we don't mind that, do we, Hugh? Good.
No, I did all right. I didn't get a lot of hundreds, but I think I only got 100. But
it's interesting you say that, because it sounds as though you were playing the way you wanted to as that 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old, with freedom, no pressure, just go out there and do it.
Exactly. And I think that's what I try and help athletes now. And I'm working with tennis players these days on their mindset. It doesn't matter what sport, it's how can you get in your best state? How can you get to your best? And more often than not, most of the time, it's a calm, sort of confident, relaxed state where you are playing with freedom. And the opposite to me of freedom is fear. And so many people play with fear, and they're thinking about what could happen if I get it right and I have a good day, or what could happen if I get it wrong and have a bad day. So that was absolutely it. I didn't really care. I was in my 30s. I was there to help develop the club and the people in the club as much as I was to win games for them. I was bowling a bit. So it was lots of fun playing with freedom. And that's how I wish I was able to play all my career.
And I think it's that way of thinking that me in particular, I've used one of your cohorts, and so that he said to us earlier this year so many times now, when we spoke to Teague Wiley and talked about how he goes through things, and he said he goes out there every week knowing that there's a chance he's going to get out 19 times out of 20 in a season. Don't go out there thinking that's a bad thing. That is, it's life when it comes to cricket, isn't it?
Absolutely.
If you get that straight, then actually you're far better off. That one that you don't get out, you got to go big. But the other 19, you just got to make the most of them, haven't you?
Exactly. Like, I think I had first heard that sort of idea from Ben Brown, who was captain at Sussex and now at Hampshire. And he said Mahela J. Warden has said that when he was an overseas pro at Sussex. And he was like, guys, don't fear getting out. You're going to get out. Like, just accept that you're going to get out. But it's like, what can you do in the time before you make that mistake and get out? Some days it'll be early, some days it won't. It's how can you prolong what you're doing out there? But yeah, absolutely. It's an easy thing to say. It's a hard thing to do. I coached an 11-year-old boy last night, and Dad said he was crying all Sunday after he got out for a duck. And even last night he was still being really sad and hard on himself. And it's so common. It's so common. So I'm trying to help him understand that, hey, look, I've got lots of ducks. Everyone gets ducks. It's okay. It doesn't define you. It doesn't make you a bad player. That's okay. But it's so common.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Sometimes the most painful part of getting sick is the getting better part. Waiting on hold for an appointment, sitting in crowded waiting rooms, standing in line at the pharmacy, that's painful. Amazon One Medical and Amazon Pharmacy remove those painful parts of getting better with things like 24/7 virtual visits and prescriptions delivered to your door. Thanks to Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon One Medical, healthcare just got less painful.
Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Yeah, everything you're talking about there when it comes to that, the mental approach to cricket in particular there, Tom, that's led you into that coaching sphere that has now been the last 10 years of your life non-stop. Is that for you the biggest, most single fundamental of the pillars that you use within the business?
Oh, look, I think it's a huge part, but I think you need them all. I don't think there's one for each individual. Like I can see a young player and think, "Oh, technically you're awesome," and there's not a lot I need to give or help them develop in that pillar.
Mm-hmm.
But they might be lacking a lot tactically or mentally or whatever. But it all depends where they're at. It all depends where someone's at and at what time in their career and in their life. Some people will need Teague. You just mentioned he has always tinkered with his technique, and I think mentally he's very, very good. But we are often trying to figure out technical things. But sometimes it's just putting an arm around him and say, mate, don't worry about it. It's all good. Like it's a mental thing he needs. So it all depends. I think that the main thing that most people neglect in coaching and in mentoring is really the mental and emotional pillars, which I think are so, so important. You can have the best technique in the world, understand the game really well, but if you don't know how to manage your thoughts and your emotions, you're not going to get to your best very often. And that's what happened to me.
I mean, you talk about tennis there. One of my books that I've gone to with coaching is The Inner Game of Tennis. I've got it, Timothy Galway. It's a really interesting book, and it's a really interesting take in it. It's not really about tennis. It is about tennis, but it's a very much broader approach to all sorts of facets of coaching. But tennis players in particular, the mental side for tennis players is unbelievable. I mean, I've always been astonished. I've watched Wimbledon since I was a kid. My mum's a massive, massive tennis fan, and just the ability to, they're 40 love down in a game and just hit that same shot, not change their approach time after time. It's the same. It's the same. I know this. Come back from 40 love down to win the match. It's astonishing. So do you use those sort of techniques, that you've taken from tennis, from cricket, and swap it over a lot?
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is tennis and cricket are similar in that they're start-stop games. Like there's gaps in between the balls in cricket and there's gaps in between points in tennis. Now, the big difference is that cricket, you're facing a bowler and it happens in less than a second. Tennis, the point could go for 20 rallies and go for 15 seconds or 20 seconds. So there's a difference there, but it's fundamentally, I think the goal for any athlete is to be present, like have your attention in the present moment. And so I've worked with this young tennis player who's number 1 in Australia for his birth year. He's in the top. He's about to go into the top sort of 50 or 60 in the world for his birth year once the calendar year ends and all the 2006 born athletes drop off, the junior under 18s, and he'll go to about 50 in the world. And so he's a fantastic young tennis player, and it's been really interesting working with him for the last 2 years and learning the intricacies. I played a bit of tennis at a very young age and amateur level, and I've watched tennis, but it's all the same. Like I talk to cricketers and batters about reflect, relax, reset, refocus, a sort of a 4R process in between balls. And I talk to tennis players now about the same thing. Like, what did you learn from that point? Okay, relax, just let yourself go, let that point go. Okay, reset, what do you need to do? What's going on next? Where are you serving? And then refocus on the point. And it's the same with batting. So it doesn't matter what sport it is. And tennis and cricket have very similar parallels, that it's about bringing your attention to right here, right now, so that you can make the best decisions and your body can just execute what it's so good at doing. And it's been an amazing journey with Jake. He has times where he's up a set and a break and his then mind is racing to who he's playing next, and he'll lose the next set. And then he's got to come back from that, and it's this big roller coaster. And the other day he came back from a set and 4-1 down and love 40 down. And he was like on the brink of defeat, and he sort of went this point, came back to just thinking about 1 point at a time. And he won 5 points in a row, held service, broke the next serve because the guy was disappointed. He was dwelling on missing the break points, and he held his serve again, broke again. All of a sudden he's got all the momentum, wins the second set, wins the match. So it's a really, really fascinating, really fascinating thing that tennis is.
It's absolutely fascinating listening to that, Tom. And I think, Hugh, what we haven't told Tom here, and it's, maybe we might have pulled the wool over his eyes a little bit here, but we didn't just want to chat to him today. We wanted to interview him for a role in our cricket club, at our little mythical online cricket club that we have. And we've got friends who work at the Sports Social Podcast Network. They have a football club called FC Bullard. And Jimmy Bullard and the boys are putting together a mythical football club and been quietly interviewing one or two people. I think we've done the same with Scollay here, Hugh. And what do you reckon? Should we ask him to be head coach?
I think he's probably got the qualifications, yeah. Certainly more than me and you.
Yeah, he's definitely got more than me and you. So you fancy joining us as head coach of the Premier League Cricket Club then, Tom?
Mate, I would be honoured. I would love to. Thank you. I really appreciate what you guys are doing for the cricket community in the UK and have followed along. And you've obviously had a few of the cricket mentoring guys on, and I've been on, and I'd be honoured.
There you go. £2 a week plus
No, there's no fee.
I was going to say plus expenses, but I haven't paid expenses.
Exactly. Yeah, we're not paying his expenses from Perth to the bloody UK. Come on, that's going to cost far too much, definitely. Hey, brilliant to have you on board, Tom. And obviously, we're going to partner with Cricket Mentoring going forward. You're going to be our coaching and mentoring partners for the cricket club. But more important to that, we want to be able to talk to you and other coaches and some of your guys, as we've done, about what it's all about and take it a stage further. And that's what we'll do in episodes in the next couple of months now. We're going to talk about the 6 pillars that you guys utilise and get stuck into it. But in the next episode, we're going to talk about something very close to Hugh's heart. We want to know why the Western Australian Cricket Organisation, or whatever it is, why it is so successful right now. We'll get people back on board with that very shortly, eh?
Nice one.
Thanks for joining us at the Premier League Cricket Club. We'll be back soon with more from the world of Premier League and NWCA cricket. But in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review and follow us wherever you get your socials. Or maybe check out our website, premierleaguecricket.co.uk, to stay updated. Until next time, have a good one.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
These are violent criminals, so they're not going to go down easy.
ABC Tuesdays.
Let's get this done.
The Rookie is back.
We have 2 new rookies starting today.
Howdy.
Being a cop is stressful 24/7. Every year on the job is different.
And Training Day.
We have a serial killer at large.
Never ends.
We need an ambulance!
The Rookie. All new Tuesdays on ABC and stream on Hulu.